I spent 30 years waiting to meet the devil. I thought I'd know him when I saw him. I grew up on the stories, just like you. I thought he'd have fire in his eyes. I thought he'd quote Dante or Nietzsche. I thought he'd be sophisticated. I thought evil was a grand architecture, a cathedral of malice built by masterminds. That is the lie. That is the comforting fairy tale we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. Because if evil is a monster, if it is something other, something alien, then it isn't us. It isn't our neighbor. It isn't the man bagging your groceries. I carried a badge for 3 decades. I've stood over bodies in penthouses and in alleyways where the rats didn't even scatter. I've interrogated men who dissolved children in acid and women who poisoned their husbands with Sunday roast. And here is the freezing truth that no movie, no book, and no news report wants to admit. Evil isn't a presence. It's an absence. It isn't a fire. It's the cold. And the scariest thing about the man who kills you isn't that he hates you. It's that he doesn't think about you at all. We have this obsession with the genius serial killer, the Hannibal Lecter archetype. We want to believe that the person tearing society apart is smarter than us, because if they are a genius, their violence has a reason. Even if it's a twisted reason, it's a plan. Chaos is terrifying. A plan is comforting. But let me take you back to a rainy Tuesday in 1998. I sat across from a man. Let's call him Arthur. Arthur had killed 3 people in a span of 4 hours. He didn't have a manifesto. He didn't have a ritual. When I asked him why he walked into that gas station, why he pulled the trigger on the clerk and then the customer and then the person at the pump, I expected rage. I expected a story of abuse or a voice in his head. Arthur looked at me, rubbed his nose and said, "The clerk was taking too long with my lottery ticket, and then I just didn't want to stop." That was it. There was no grand design. There was just a sudden, catastrophic lack of impulse control, a void where a conscience should have been. This is the lie we believe, that evil requires malice. It doesn't. True, distilled evil is often just profound stupidity, mixed with a total lack of empathy. It is the inability to see other people as real. To Arthur, those people weren't humans with families, dreams, and fears. They were NPCs in a video game. They were cardboard cutouts blocking his view of the counter. That is infinitely more terrifying than a mastermind. You can outsmart a mastermind. You cannot predict a man who kills you simply because you are standing where he wants to walk. We have been trying to physically separate ourselves from the wicked for centuries. In the late 19th century, an Italian criminologist named Cesare Lombroso told the world that you could spot a murderer by his face. He called it atavism. He measured skulls. He looked for asymmetrical jaws, hawk noses, fleshy lips. He claimed criminals were evolutionary throwbacks, apes wearing suits. Why did the world embrace Lombroso? Why did Victorian London, terrified of Jack the Ripper, cling to this pseudoscience? Because it promised safety. If evil looks like an ape, then the handsome man, the gentleman, the doctor, he must be safe. But history laughs at Lombroso. Let's go back further, to 1440, France. The case of Gilles de Rais. Gilles de Rais was a hero. He fought alongside Joan of Arc. He was the Marshal of France. He was pious, wealthy, and by all accounts, a man of culture. He was the Golden Knight. But inside his castle, Machecoul, he was butchering hundreds of children. When the truth came out, the peasants couldn't process it. They claimed he must be possessed by a demon. He must have summoned Baphomet. They needed a supernatural explanation because the alternative was too breaking. That a man can be a hero on the battlefield on Monday and a child killer on Tuesday. The lie persists. We want the devil to have horns. We want him to be the other. But Gilles de Rais wasn't a demon. He was a narcissist with unlimited power and zero accountability. He didn't kill because the devil told him to. He killed because he was bored, and he liked the sound it made. In my 30 years, the ones who kept me up at night weren't the gangbangers or the drug lords. With them, violence is a transaction. It's business. If you don't owe them money, you're usually safe. No, the ones who haunt me are the nice guys. I worked a case in 2011, a family annihilator. You know the type. Father, husband, member of the PTA. He strangled his wife and 2 daughters on a Sunday morning, then sat down and watched a football game while eating a bowl of cereal. When I sat in the box with him, I looked for the crack. I looked for the moment the mask would slip and the beast would snarl. It never happened. He was polite. He asked for water. He asked if the handcuffs were necessary. He spoke about his family in the past tense with a mild sadness. as if they had died in a car crash he wasn't involved in. I was just under a lot of pressure, he told me. The debt was piling up. I didn't want them to be ashamed. He killed them to save his ego. And here is the most freezing realization I ever had in that interrogation room. I looked into his eyes, and I didn't see darkness. I didn't see a swirling vortex of hate. I saw a mirror. He was mundane. He worried about his credit score. He liked pepperoni pizza. He had a bad knee. He was just like me. He was just like you. The difference wasn't biology. The difference wasn't that he was born bad. The difference was that at some point, he decided that his comfort was worth more than their lives. He turned off the switch that makes us human, and once that switch is off, it's terrifying how easy it is to function. You see, the lie about evil is that it is a rare, exotic disease. The truth is that evil is a latent gene in all of us. It is the path of least resistance. It is easier to kill the witness than to go to jail. It is easier to steal the pension fund than to work for 30 years. It is easier to hit than to argue. Civilization is a thin sheet of ice over a deep, dark ocean. And men like that, Father, they just decide to stop skating and let themselves fall through. Predators in the wild rely on camouflage. A tiger has stripes to blend into the grass. A shark has a gray back to blend into the depths. Human predators have camouflage too. Do you know what it is? Sanity. They mimic sanity perfectly. They learn the cues. They know when to smile. They know when to cry. I once interviewed a woman who poisoned 3 of her boyfriends. She was crying in the interrogation room, sobbing, convulsing. My rookie partner felt sorry for her. He brought her tissues. He thought she was broken with guilt, but I was watching her hands. Her face was a storm of emotion, but her hands were resting on the table, perfectly still. Her pulse in her neck wasn't racing. She wasn't crying because she was sad. She was crying because she knew that's what a grieving girlfriend does. It was a performance, a pantomime. When I pointed this out, when I said, "You can stop now, Sharon," the tears stopped instantly, like turning off a faucet. She looked at me, bored, and said, "Can I have a cigarette?" That transition, that instant shift from high melodrama to absolute boredom, that is the face of evil. It's not the scream, it's the shrug. So why am I telling you this? Why shatter the myth? Because believing the lie makes you vulnerable. If you are looking for a monster with scars and a twitching eye, you will miss the charming man who holds the door open for you. You will miss the quiet accountant who is methodically draining your life savings. But more importantly, believing the lie absolves you of responsibility. If evil is only for monsters, then you don't have to watch your own heart. I have seen 30 years of homicide, and the most dangerous moment isn't when the gun goes off. It's the quiet justification beforehand. It's the thought, "I deserve this." It's the thought, "They don't matter." It's the thought, "No one will know." Every killer I met started with a small compromise, a small lie, a small cruelty. And then, step by step, they walked down a staircase into the dark until they couldn't see the light at the top anymore. The scariest thing isn't that monsters exist. The scariest thing is that they don't. There are only men, and there are only women. And under the right pressure, at the right temperature, with the right justification, almost anyone can do almost anything. I spent 30 years looking for the devil. I found him. He drives a Honda Civic. He has a mortgage. He worries about his hairline. And he is capable of unimaginable cruelty simply because it is convenient. Check your door, not to keep the monsters out, but to make sure you know who you're locking in with you.